You're listening to Lore Friendly episode 109. We're back after a week hiatus because I forgot to save my track.
Because classic Chris.
I just need to hit save when we're done.
The thing is, I manage to do it every single week. It's always on your end.
Well, it's different because you're actually sending me something. If I were to send
Yeah, but I still have
you,
to save it.
Yeah, because you have to save and send, right?
Yeah, but I just save it directly into my Dropbox. I don't have to send it to you.
Right. If I was responsible for sending you my track, it would get done every week because I would have to have a physical file to send you.
Okay. It wouldn't be a physical file, though, would it? It'd be a,
Yes.
a non-physical file because it's all done over the internet. It's not like you're posting me a file every week.
Yes. I actually send it in the
with
mail.
a tape recorder on it.
Yes.
With a little cassette.
It's actually a record. You have to spin it and play it on a record and then translate it into digital MP3 files. And then, yeah, it's a lot of work is what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's a lot of work talking shit.
So you should be apologizing to me. No, I'm kidding. No, it's my fault. I fucked up. All our jokes, all our witty commentary wasted, unfortunately.
No, it's just your Twitter content for the next month.
I actually forgot everything I said other than that one.
Apart from the thing about the duck game, yeah.
Yes. Goose game. It's a goose game.
Duck game. Duck game. I want a game with a duck.
Because remember, because geese are assholes. Just like they are.
Yeah, but I want a game with a duck anyway.
Well, you can make one. You can make one based in Britain because this one was made by Australian developers.
Yes, but it was based in England anyway.
Was it?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It was based in a quaint little English village.
Okay. Because, again, like I said last week, we figured that, the geese were even angrier and madder because Australia is where you sent all your criminal geese. It's where, it's where all the violent geese were sent. And that's why they're even more dangerous. But it's based in the UK, so surprise, surprise. I mean, you guys are pretty violent and...
Oh, we're pretty awful. I am more than willing to admit that.
Yes, I mean, segueing to our lead story this week, I mean, this is all technically the UK's fault, this whole Hong Kong kind of thing. Yeah.
So, well, if nothing else, such a heavy and awful situation has given us something to talk about this week. So, for the two people in the world who aren't aware of the situation at the minute, there are basically massive protests going off in Hong Kong, which was initially about an extradition bill. So an extradition bill was being introduced by the Chinese government, and many people in Hong Kong think that that's encroaching on their rights because they're seen as more of a satellite state rather than being directly under China's control because they were, of course, a massive UK colony at one point.
Yes.
So they've got their own special relationship.
Because, I mean, that goes back to, the Opium Wars, right? Like, you guys introduced opium into China and then went to war over... Because they banned it, and then you guys went to war over that. Said, buy our drugs! Yeah. And then part of the compromise, or whatever, the treaty, the settlement, more or less, was giving Hong Kong to the UK, right?
Yeah.
And only recently was given back its independence or something.
Was it 1997 that it was brought back under Chinese rule, something like that? Or
and it's weird
recently?
because they have a one country, two systems principle.
Yeah. So, yes, China is very big on its censorship and to say the least, whereas Hong Kong is more free in that respect. There's less censorship, there's less anything like that.
Yeah, so it's a sensitive issue because from China's perspective, hey, this place is our territory that you guys stole from us, more or less.
Yeah.
And from Hong Kong's perspective, it's you guys are...
You're trying to take away our rights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We like having democracy, so it's a bit weird.
Yeah, and this has basically come to a head with the extradition bill because they feel like the people of Hong Kong feel like it's encroaching on their special relationship that they have to the laws in China, and that can be used to get rid of political dissidents or figures that China doesn't like, so that it can, over time, make the state far more complacent. So there's been big protests going off since the end of March this year, and as they've been going on, it's been gaining more and more traction and more press because of China's response to it. So they've been getting violent. There's been all sorts of stories about it. So apparently they've been smuggling in Chinese criminals dressed as police officers to beat up the protesters. They've been arresting protesters. A couple of weeks ago, they shot a protester, which was a pretty big escalation of events, and it's just generally getting more and more violent out there and more terrifying on behalf of the protesters who are just trying to make sure that they can retain their rights. Which brings us to last week.
Yeah, video games.
So the situation is that there was a player called Blitzchung who is a very famous and very well-respected Hearthstone player. And I believe he was playing in a tournament, and he was doing a post-match interview live on Twitch, and he appeared on the Twitch stream wearing a gas mask and saying, "Liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our age," because he's originally from Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So this was his way of getting the message out. And then the stream was cut, and the player Blitzchung was banned for a year by Blizzard. They held back all of his prize money that he's earned and generally have punished him really, really harshly.
Since then, they have walked it back a little bit.
Saying our relationship with our Chinese shareholders has nothing to do with this situation, which is kind of like, you know, when you've got a hostage and you're making them read out your board. It feels
I know this
like
situation very well.
Yeah. It feels kind of like that.
I'm holding you hostage right now, Alice.
Yeah. But they've kind of backtracked slightly. They've rewarded him his prize money. They've reduced his ban down to 6 months. But this whole thing has started a massive backlash against Blizzard.
Yeah.
So it's gone from people saying that they're going to boycott Blizzard to people cancelling their subscriptions to Blizzard-owned properties. But then, because it gets worse, in some parts of the world it has been reported Blizzard has been removing the ability to cancel your subscriptions.
Again, something I'm very familiar with. Just try and cancel your lore-friendly subscription, see what happens. It's not going to be pretty.
Yeah. Which I'm pretty sure goes against at least some EU laws, so I'm not 100% sure on if that's something that's been going off in the EU or if it's just different countries. And then some of the players have taken a different stance in that they've been turning Overwatch characters into pro-Hong Kong protesters through memes.
Because that's how we fight. We fight with memes.
Yes.
In 2019.
So they've been turning all these different Overwatch characters into fantastic pro-Hong Kong things. That was very eloquent of me. And then we've also got upcoming BlizzCon. So BlizzCon is an annual convention, and apparently there is going to be a massive protest at BlizzCon as well. So it's all kicking off. Their attempt to backtrack hasn't gone very well at all. And it's generally just one of the biggest and most unusual things that I think we could be talking about.
Well, it's kind of strange because in China, basically the government owns everything. So because in America we put children in cages, we do awful, horrible things. But if I buy a Bethesda game, it's not like it's going to give Donald Trump money.
Yeah.
They're separated more or less. But in China, it's like there's this huge global market that everybody wants to do business with, but it's also tied to an authoritarian government, which has as you can imagine, any government that has absolute power is going to have very sort of suspect practices.
Yeah.
And so it's a bit weird because even just from a consumer perspective, even if you don't play video games, if you buy any kind of product, almost everything is made in China, right? So it's are we funding these horrible things? It's kind of difficult to extricate yourself from. And even on a consumer level, that's the case. With these big corporations, there's a lot of money that is tied into this country. And so, I don't know, people, maybe they need to rethink that. Maybe they need to work on growing their product domestically. It's just, because at some point, you're going to have to deal with these kind of situations. It's surprising that it's taken this long, but there's a lot of influence, I guess, that is happening. And do you want that kind of influence to affect how you make games, how you make movies, how you make any kind of media? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, even like Marvel movies, they've had to make choices based on, like, I think Doctor Strange changed the monk, I think, from Tibetan to what's her name? What's the
I know it. Tilda Swanson?
Tilda Swinton, right?
That's the one, yeah.
Tilda Swinton, yeah. So Tilda Swinton, not Tibetan. China doesn't recognize Tibet as an actual country. So there you go. It's like, how deep do you want to get in terms of like being indebted to whatever this country demands, or so?
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's an interesting thing that will affect not just video games, but just a lot
everything,
of businesses.
every aspect of global life.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's a right answer for that. It's because, I mean, we're a capitalist society. We're driven by money. People have jobs because of money. I mean, they need their lives funded. They need their shareholders paid. So it's yeah. I imagine. I mean, there's a line for everybody. There's a line at which point. I mean, if China started just dropping bombs on New York or something like that, or California, then yes, that would be crossing the line. There, no one would be doing business with them. But I mean, it depends.
But would it though? You say that, but would it though?
Maybe not. Maybe not.
When you consider some of the deals that both of our respective governments have been getting quite heavily into, like I think Saudi arms deals are a particularly prominent talking topic in the UK, and funding and providing regimes that don't necessarily stand for your country's values.
No.
Like, is there a line? Is there a line that capitalism isn't willing to cross?
I think
Because I honestly don't think that there is. Maybe that's just me being cynical, but I honestly do not think...
Well, there is definitely a line where it starts eating into your profits domestically, and that could be a problem. For example, I think like the NBA had a similar snafu with one of their executives tweeted, free Hong Kong kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, of course, because it went into the NBA as well, didn't it?
They have a $500 million TV deal with China.
Yeah.
But they also have a $1 billion deal here. So I mean, at some point, like the finances, like there's a line that like even China can't cross, and it's in China's best interest too, because they make money off these deals as well. So it's in their best interest as well as to not fuck it up, I guess, fuck up these deals for both sides, but they want to make sure that their absolute authority does not get questioned. So there's some things that are third rail for them. They don't want to, like, if you say free Hong Kong, like that is something that's questioning their absolute authority, and then so they don't like that at all. But yeah.
It's just such a difficult topic, and I can understand why it's made such an impact, because it is one of those stories that has been slowly growing and growing and growing. Like, I didn't hear anything about it April, May, June, July. It was only really in August time that I started to see things popping up online about the Hong Kong protests, and then suddenly over the last couple of weeks it's really exploded into something that's actually penetrating our news cycle, which, given my country's current political situation, it's really impressive that a foreign country is starting to actually make an impact on our news cycle, because that never happens, because we're in the middle of our own crisis. But it's just absolutely blown up. It's infecting every sphere of like entertainment, internet, all sorts. It's crossing through boundaries. But is it going to dent China in the long haul? Is it going to mean that the protesters win? I don't think it will.
No.
Which upsets me.
So slightly pivoting, what do you think this means for Bethesda games? I don't think Bethesda has much of a presence in China, because if you think about it, Fallout, that's probably the game that makes them absolutely rage. That and Winnie the Pooh, of course. But
yeah.
Because they basically, in the Fallout universe, America goes to war with China. They go to nuclear war, and basically they're the enemy. They're treated almost like, I guess the analog would be the Japanese were in the 1940s. Like they got the Chinese Americans put in concentration camps. They have all this propaganda, like 1940s, 50s style propaganda, where you have like these images of Chinese soldiers that are kind of racist. So,
but wasn't there that whole there was a whole quest in, was it Fallout 3, where you went into a military simulation that just portrayed the Chinese as just the most incompetent people imaginable, where you met a stereotypical Chinese general, I think it was.
It's possible. I don't really remember. I know you meet one in Fallout 4, but he's more humanized. So maybe in Fallout 3. Fallout 3 was a little more it was a little more edgy with that stuff. Like I think the Chinese lines too that are spouted out by the ghoul soldiers, I don't even think they were done by someone who speaks Mandarin. Like I think like cuz I remember asking my Chinese friend like, "Hey, like what are these lines saying?" And he's like, "I don't know. It just sounds like it sounds like gibberish, you know." So
Yeah.
and there's been complaints about the radio station in Fallout 3. It's like a Tokyo Rose style thing, and the accent on it is kind of a little bit overboard.
It's not very good.
I don't know if it'll influence the next game, because the next game is probably like 10 years away. I don't think they'll revisit Fallout for a long time. But yeah, it is interesting because certain companies have deep ties in China. They've sort of invested in the infrastructure to profit from China, whereas others have not. And you can sort of tell which voices are usually the loudest. It's the ones that are free to like oppose it, but don't really have a financial incentive. The ones that have like a financial incentive kind of like, they kind of like, you know, toe the line. They say like, yeah, you know, they want to have it both ways. They don't want to insult the domestic customer, but they also don't want to insult China.
Well, it's like how Epic Games has come out as completely supporting free speech and things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's actually pretty ballsy because they're 40% owned, but they're controlled, I guess. They have the controlling interest.
Yeah, it depends on who the controlling investor is. It's like how Reddit is also, I think, 40% owned by Chinese investors, but they're not the principal shareholder.
Yeah, and they're so popular that they could do whatever they want, I think, at this point, right?
Yeah.
Do they even need China? That's the thing. I think Bethesda will be fine because Bethesda they don't really have a presence there. They're not really they don't really, I don't know if they sell that many games to the East Asian market. Like, so they're mostly like a domestic company, I would say. So yeah, Bethesda Games, safe.
But it's just such an odd situation. Normally when you see like politics and video games mingling, it's normally video games getting accused of being the main cause of another school shooting or whatever.
No.
So at least it's not that, you know?
Yeah, but there is going to be like censorship and stuff that happens because of this. Like,
yeah,
political stuff like that, like, oh, video games cause violence, that's never really going to affect like the actual product that comes out. But this stuff actually does have an impact, right?
Yeah.
On not just the product, but I guess like the speech of people who are associated with these kind of like contests and things like that, or who are public figures more or less. Because like this Hearthstone player Blitzchung said he's going to be more careful about what he says in the future, and like everybody in the NBA is kind of shut up about it. So it's just this is the reality when there's so much money on the line. It's kind of, people just tend to clam up. Luckily, we don't get paid by China, so we can say whatever the fuck we want.
Exactly. But what about YouTube? No, YouTube's Googling it.
Yeah, YouTube doesn't
It's
pay
fine.
us enough.
We'll
Yeah.
just be censored for talking about a moderately controversial topic.
Yeah, YouTube doesn't pay us enough to not bash YouTube.
No.
If they want us to say nice things about YouTube, they have to like up the dollar amount by a few zeros.
Yeah, at least a few zeros.
Yes, until then, fuck YouTube.
Yeah.
And we just got demonetized.
We were going to get demonetized the first time that we mentioned Hong Kong anyway. It's fine.
Yeah, so that's a complicated topic. I don't know if we'll be able to use any of that on Relist.
Well,
Let's talk about something non-controversial. Let's talk about what we talked about last week, but
yes.
I conveniently deleted, which is a recent release, Skygerfall.
Skygerfall.
Skygerfall. Oh, I thought it had 2 Gs. Why does it only have 1 G? But yeah, Skygerfall, Daggerfall's main quest, has been released in TS5. And this was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
It was released by
First things first, the name.
Yes.
So it's basically following the naming conventions of the other porting Bethesda games into the Skyrim engine
Putting Sky in front.
trend, but but because there is a very famous film called Skyfall, you kind of want to avoid any copywriting with that,
Yeah.
or any confusion with the James Bond film. So he's gone with calling it Skygerfall,
Yeah.
which is a fantastic name. Sounds like a Geiger counter.
Yes.
For nuclear waste.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you want to show up like first on the Google search, more or less, right? So if you put in Skyfall, it's going to have like 10 James Bond links, and you're going to be on like page 6. So it's not going to work. You want to be on page 1. You want to be on the front page.
It's all about playing the algorithms.
I do think it's a missed opportunity not to have 2 G's, because isn't Skyg with 2 G's a like Norse word? There's like a ruin called like Volskyg, isn't there? In the game.
This should be my area of expertise, you'd think, wouldn't you?
If you Google,
give me a second.
If you Google the word Skyg, it means shade or darkness or something. But maybe that means something different than what the Daggerfall game
comes from Skuggy. That would have been quite a fun etymological thing to play around with.
Yeah.
I can admit that. That would have been very fun. But they didn't go for that. They went for Skygerfall with a single G. And we have to live with this choice.
Do we like it more than Dagger Rim?
Dagger Rim sounds like a really painful porno.
What kind of pornos do you watch that involve daggers?
Violent ones.
I guess dagger could be a euphemism, and there is your dick joke of the week, but yes.
Yeah. And Rim.
Ah, yes, okay. It's an anal porno. Gotcha.
Yeah.
For some reason...
What can I say? I have some very unusual tastes.
No, it sounds pretty normal. If you call it penis butt, it's a typical. I mean.
And we've managed to go 33 minutes in recording without mentioning dicks.
I believe the website is tushy.com. It specializes in anal. Anyways. Yes.
On to the actual mod.
Yes. It's a very faithful recreation.
Yes, it's a very good recreation of... It's basically 1-for-1 port.
Yes.
Of all of Daggerfall's locations into the Elder Scrolls engine. Which, on the one hand, perfect port. On the other hand, because of how much gaming has progressed in the last... God, it'd be around 30 years, wouldn't it? Because of how much gaming has progressed over the last 30 years, it does make the environments look a little bit unusual, but at the same time, I can see what they were going for.
Yeah.
And it is quite stunning how they've managed to do the 1-for-1 recreations, and they actually show you on the mod page as well comparisons with the original Daggerfall screenshots and what they've managed to do, which is quite impressive.
Yeah, there is... It's really impressive, first of all, that it's finished. I mean, how many of these things get finished? But yeah, there's a slight amount of cognitive dissonance when you're playing the game, because the music is from the 80s. It goes with like sort of that 8-bit feel, and then the NPCs though look like really like, I mean, they're Skyrim graphics, and then they're, so it kind of like feels weird to have these like NPCs that are really like high resolution with these other bits and bobs that are just more or less done in the style of the 80s type games. So there's a little bit of cognitive dissonance there. I'm not sure what I would rather play, this or the original Daggerfall. Like, I kind of feel like from an atmosphere standpoint, I would just want to play the original and just go all 80s so it's consistent. But from a gameplay standpoint, I'm sure it's terrible. I don't know. I haven't played Daggerfall, but...
Yeah, I haven't played Daggerfall either. It's free still, isn't it? Arena and Daggerfall are both free games.
Yeah, it's probably... I mean, if it's not free, it's probably so cheap that it's basically free. But yeah, like...
At the same time, though, I've been unable to play Morrowind because I'm wholly inept.
Yeah, well, the gameplay on Morrowind is like dice rolls and stuff, right? So it's just...
It's more like playing D&D with clicking.
Yeah, so if Daggerfall is anything like that, and I'm sure it's worse because it's an older game, I would probably rather play this. I mean, cognitive dissonance aside, I would want to be my stealth archer self, and so it's just
because it's a better engine.
Yeah, it's just better all around. So, yeah, I recommend playing this instead. And it also has a friend of the show, voice actor Jessica Osborne. And
yes, it does. It features friend of the show and all-round talented voice actress. And I believe that she is playing one of the lead characters within the mod.
Yes, yeah. And we know this because she's at the top of the credits.
Yep, she's at the top of the credits. We did Unfortunately, what was lost in the great purge of Chris's non-saving of things was a fantastic discussion on the cast list for Oblivion,
Yes.
where we found out that Linda Carter, aka Wonder Woman, was listed below Sean Bean, but above Patrick Stewart in the credits.
Yes. Because usually you would assume that Patrick Stewart is on top, just because he's Patrick Stewart.
Yes, he is a thespian and an angel and my old man
And
crush.
a knight, right? Isn't he knighted?
Yes, he is. He's Sir Patrick Stewart for services to the theatre, and I've actually seen him perform
Yeah,
live.
Linda Carter is Wonder Woman, though. That's technically like a knight, right?
We all know that she's only that high on the cast list because she's dating someone at ZeniMax.
Not just anyone, not just someone. The someone, Robert Altman, head and CEO of ZeniMax, so...
Yeah.
But she's like a Amazonian warrior princess, right? So...
It's why she voiced the Nords and the Orcs.
So she's like a step above a knight, and that doesn't explain Sean Bean being first, but yeah.
And I think I figured this out after we finished recording. It was just done in alphabetical order.
Are we sure it's not because Sean Bean is technically a king? He is Eddard Stark. King? I guess he's not a king, huh? What is he? What is Eddard Stark? He's Hand of the King. So we have a knight and captain of the Starship Enterprise. We have a warrior princess, and we have the Hand of the King.
A Hand of the King who only lasted one season. You're also forgetting that he also played Boromir.
Yes, he played Boromir.
Who only lasted the first
But we have to
film.
go by recency, right? So.
And he also did... In fact, the only film that I think I've seen Sean Bean survive to the end of. Because I also watched a adaptation of the oldest novel written in English called Clarissa. And he starred in a BBC adaptation of that.
I was going to say, like Sean...
And he got killed.
Sean Bean died in Clarissa too.
Yes, he did. In fact, the only thing that I've seen him in where he hasn't died was the Silent Hill series. And really, he should have died. Because that was a bad series and he didn't need to be associated with it.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the mod. Because we're getting off track. But yeah, it's I want to play it.
Yeah.
I currently don't have a system that can run many inventive mods at the minute.
You could probably
I'm in the
run
process
Skyrim
of buying and upgrading now.
You could still play Skyrim, though.
I can still play Skyrim, thankfully, but I can't overload it with mods.
Well, this one is just a mod that you play before you load in all your other mods.
Yeah.
This takes place before the main game, and apparently you can beat it and go straight to the main game afterwards. So.
And your character lives for thousands of
and
years.
completely skips Oblivion
Hundreds of
because,
years.
again, he's mad that Patrick Stewart was not at the top of the credits. He's incensed.
I mean, who can blame him? Patrick Stewart should be at the top.
Going through, I'm skipping Morrowind, I'm skipping Oblivion, just going straight to Skyrim. Because also Morrowind does not have Patrick Stewart at the top of credits, so he was also angry about that.
But Skyrim doesn't have Patrick Stewart at the top of the credits because he's not in it.
That's true.
I think I've ruined it. I think I've ruined your theory.
Well, maybe he thought it'd have Patrick Stewart. Like, clearly by now, after 3 games, they've rectified this gross omission. But no, wasn't the case. It's like, oh, he's not here. But oh well, let's just play the game. That's pretty much what happened, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Or your character immediately dies the second Skyrim starts. That's what happens. You get on a wagon, he dies.
And Alduin wins.
He goes back to sleep. He says, "Wake me when the next Patrick Stewart game comes out." And that's what happens. He gets his head chopped off.
That's the whole plot of Skyrim.
So try that mod, play it. Sounds like it'd be a good time, and
enjoy it, yeah. And show some love to Little Cup of Joe, aka Jessica Osborne.
Yes. And if you don't have time to play it, maybe you can let a computer play it for you, because that is another piece of news we found out is that...
Yeah, this is some news that actually makes me excited because I'm probably going to need this because my computer upgrading is taking so long.
Yes. So Stadia, Google Stadia, I'm not sure what it is.
Yes, Stadia.
It announced that in efforts to fight latency, and this is their streaming service, so you play video games streaming, and which naturally is going to cause some lag if you have like a slow internet. In
Yeah.
efforts to fight that, they actually have this thing called negative latency, which is pretty crazy. It has an algorithm it has a computer determine what your most likely move is going to be in the future, and it pre-renders all the things necessary, all the like bits and bobs that happen behind the scenes in advance. And so if you do that action, like it will already have that stuff ready, so it avoids latency that way. It's nuts. It's crazy that they can predict your behavior, but yeah.
Yeah.
Except for your
The
behavior.
article that we were reading, yeah, I'm just unpredictable. The article that I was reading that you'd actually sent me was saying that the predictive thing isn't completely new to gaming, in that 2D games would previously do it when they were running on really shit systems. But the fact that they're translating it to a 3D gaming system, I'm just interested to see how it goes sometimes. Because I will often do things where I will change direction very quickly, mid-walk, combos, things like that. I'll forget what I'm doing and I'll hit a wrong button. And I'd be very confused if it then said, oh, she's finished this combo. And clearly I've just smashed the wrong key.
Basically what's going to happen is that you're going to level up, and then before you even go to the menu, all the points are going to be into stealth archers. So it's going to be.
Yeah.
But no, it says if it's incorrect in its prediction, it's just going to function normally. It's going to have to start over and render everything from scratch. But if it is correct, then all that pre-rendered stuff is already there. It loads faster. And so, it'll probably need a bit of machine learning to like learn your behavior. Like, I don't know if it's going to do your specific behavior, or it's going to take a poll of like all the players in the world and sort of determine what is the most likely outcome. I think that would probably be the easier way, right?
Yeah.
But then having everybody's individual data stored, I think that's a little much. So if they basically had a likely outcome, like if you press this key here, the next key you're most likely going to press is this other key. And so it's just like, yeah.
It's going to be very intelligent.
Not at all like Twitch plays Pokemon or something like that. That was... It's going to be more...
Could you imagine? I miss Twitch plays Pokemon. They were more innocent days.
None of this craziness that we have now. But yeah, it's just I think in the future you're gonna be able to sit back. It's gonna be like autopilot on cars. You're gonna be able to sit back and watch your game.
It's going to be just full-blown demo mode, isn't it?
If you want to have a game, play the game for you in a way that you would most likely play it, just, let it have at it. There are some uses for that. There are some, like, things that are, like, if you're, like, grinding, like, say you need to grind and get some levels, you're just like, hey, put it on autopilot.
Yeah.
You could just let it go and just, I don't know. There might be some uses for it. But, yeah, I think it's interesting and just from a technological perspective.
But yeah, I'm very excited for it because it's going to... Because I'm buying a computer, but I'm buying more of a core gaming PC rather than your big $2,000 beastie machine. So my computer will be out of date. So the possibility of streaming games is very intriguing for me as somebody who is not able to afford a high-end system. So the fact that they're thinking on the ball about how to deal with the latency issues and lag and things like that through streaming games. It's very exciting.
Yeah, and I think games that require sort of just like Bloodborne or Dark Souls, those you'll probably want to play on a local machine. But I think like any kind of lag is probably tolerable in games where it's not as reaction based, or even that less so, like a game like Skyrim, which isn't so punishing that you couldn't play with the occasional like fuck up here and there. Yeah, I think those would be fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, one last topic you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. The return, not of On Dolomar's Mouthwatch.
Oh, boo.
But of the Fatberg.
Fatwatch.
Fatwatch. So, I'm just going to read out the headline because there's no other way to sum it up. Andy Serkis plays talking anus in Fatberg prevention campaign. But this is the thing. I'm looking at the subheading now, and it's saying that the fatberg is only 0.5% fat and 93% wet wipes. So why, Chris? Why are we calling it a fatberg?
Shouldn't it be the wetberg?
Yeah, that sounds a bit. That doesn't sound as off-putting, though.
Well, it's kind of like how humans are referred to often as meat bags, but we're mostly blood. We're mostly
water.
blood bags. Yes. So it's the
water.
same for the fatberg. It's the same for the fatberg. We call
The
it the
fatberg is like the
fatberg.
bones. The bones of the... Oh, this picture that they've got heading it is absolutely gross.
I'll refrain from looking at it. Luckily, this is a podcast where we don't need the actual visuals.
It's also called, the video, Be a Good Asshole.
I think we found the plot to Dagger Him.
Ah,
I like how the asshole sort of like winked like it was talking, you know? It was like it was actually had a mouth. Or it was a mouth, I guess.
it was a clever bit of animation there.
Yes.
But the thing that annoys me about that is that Andy Serkis is English, and he said arsehole, which is how English people say asshole. But then the website is called Be a Good Asshole, not Be a Good Arsehole. So that's going to be very confusing, because it's going to upset native English people's...
People won't even know where to wipe. It's
Yeah, exactly. They don't know if it's arsehole or asshole. They don't know which website they're going to.
It'll be like, what's an asshole? I don't even know what that is.
What is an ass?
Yes.
Ass?
Do I have one? Do I need to wipe it? Oh, I'm just confused. I'm just gonna throw my wet wipe in the toilet. That's how it's gonna go. It's a campaign ruined by the fact that they did not use proper English terminology there. It's basically like Skygerfall with 2 G's all over again.
Yeah. But yes, so basically Andy Serkis has lent his voice to a campaign about not throwing wet wipes down the toilet.
Imagine putting that line on your resume.
I would love that. But yes, we're finding more and more fatbergs also, according to this article. So we had the one in Whitechapel, also infamously known as the prostitute district, where Jack the Ripper's murders took place. We have also found a fatberg in Sidmouth, England, which I have got no idea where that is. And then most recently, there was a fatberg discovered underneath Liverpool, which weighed the same as 13 African elephants.
That's a lot of elephants.
That is a lot of elephants. So really, what we're learning here is that the fatberg was not a one-time situation. This is a global epidemic.
Yes.
You know what? I want to know if there's a fatberg underneath Nottingham.
There probably is.
There probably is.
You guys use condoms and wet wipes and all these other things and
I don't.
throw them in the toilet probably.
I don't. I'm responsible.
Yeah, people here just use toilet paper. They don't use wet wipes or anything like that. So, I don't know, it's a new thing for me.
Wet wipes are good for if you do anything particularly messy, but I can't afford them. They're for posh people.
Oh, so it's a posh people's problem. Oh, okay. That makes more sense. It's fucking elves.
Yeah, I'd say it is anyway.
I bet Thalmor use wet wipes.
Yeah.
Dolimar probably uses
With
it.
his custom arsehole as well.
It needed special design.
Yeah.
That's why he needs it. He needs one that is... I think we solved it. I think we solved the mystery. He needs a mouth that conforms to, like, you know, the wet wipe uses.
Yeah.
It's a very sensitive mouth. And let's face it, that Thalmor talk a lot of shit, so there you go. I don't know if you're even listening or
I am.
hearing me. Okay.
We just love the fatberg, man. We just love the fatberg.
All right. So there's your Fatwatch and Mouthwatch news for the week. So there you go. You're fulfilled.
Join us next week when we investigate the fatberg underneath Nottingham. First-hand experience.
You're going to go there physically. You're actually going to film
Yes,
it.
I'm going to report from the sewers, and it will have the exact same cadence as this room because sewers are quite echoey.
You won't even tell the difference. It's you might not
You
even
won't be
have to
able
leave.
even to tell. I might just pour some water out next to me, and that'll sound like the sewers.
Acting.
Acting.
All right. Talk to you next week.
All right. See you later, guys. Bye.